the economy. Small businesses like Sharper Image that come from modest beginnings.
The Sharper Image started with one magazine ad for a runner's wristwatch back in 1977. The ad cost $200 and brought a $300 profit.
From a $200 investment, Richard Thalheimer built Sharper Image into a $100 million a year mail-order business. Specializing in electronic gadgets for professionals, in 6 years it went from 1 employee to 230, a brand new building, and a massive computer system to handle sales. But Sharper Image is just a part of a new chapter in small business, part of a long, colorful history dating back to the 1900s. Even then, it was the same basic formula. An idea, a person willing to gamble, and hard work. People like the Samuels, the Granites, and the Boas, all of them with a nose for a niche.
The small businesses seem better able to find an unfulfilled niche, a need, if you will, in our economy, and they rush in and fill it, and they can do it efficiently at the lowest possible cost.
And small business also produces more than half the jobs in the United States. Many of them entry-level, which give college students like Pat Pudas and others a crack at the real world.
The learning part, it seems all right and you can understand it, but then when you really go out and do it, it helps, it reinforces it.
Some say it's an investment in the future, especially for women. Over the years, small business owners have changed. Now experts say most are women. People like Yvonne Barris, who gave up a high-level banking position to start Pacific Pasta production in Danville. Why?
It wasn't my company. I didn't own it, so therefore I wasn't going to be president or chairman of the board.
Whatever the reason, small businesses are thriving. 500,000 have started in the past year, most of them right here in California. One of the best indications that small businesses are thriving is the sudden increase of specialty centers like the Livery and Mercantile Shopping Center here in Danville. There are about 60 shops here, most of them mom-and-pop operations owned by 1 or 2 people. And in most cases, this is their first time in the business world. But if you talk to the owners, they'll tell you it isn't exactly a romantic lifestyle. Chris Ferris gave up a 9-to-5 job and a career in hospital administration to open up a science and nature shop.
It's a 7-day-a-week, probably 15-hour day, sometimes 18-hour day job.
Not everybody can do it. 2 out of every 3 businesses fail. But the successful ones have brought us all kinds of innovations. Air conditioners, aerosol cans, helicopters, and even the zipper. All from the minds of people like many of us. Richard Thalheimer doesn't understand why more people don't take the risk.
The only difference between me and them is probably one or 2 words: perseverance and consistency. To whatever extent they'd like to be successful, all they have to do is realize that success doesn't come easily. It's a lot like running a marathon.
In other words, you've got to prepare. You can't just go out and run a marathon, nor can you just go out and start a business without some kind of preparation. Tomorrow night, we'll take a look at the pitfalls of small businesses, like the ones encountered at this small bakery. It had to fight off a union challenge just to stay alive. Plus, a look at the common myths associated with small businesses.
All right, fascinating.
Oh, it gets really interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Rolando. Also, tomorrow night, Rolando will let you know what's in store for you if you want to start a small business with the idea of ending up a millionaire. Wendy?
Now, Dave McElhatton, Wendy Takuda, Wayne Walker on sports, and Joel Bartlett with weather. This is Eyewitness News, Nightcast.
And next, the pitfalls you could fall into if you decide to start your own small business. The people who own this one have a few tips. That's our Eyewitness News Extra, the success stories of small businesses. Next.
Many of us don't realize it, but small businesses help giant corporations survive. They fill the gaps big businesses can't handle by providing support services. A lot of people don't understand how little companies really work, and that's why there are a lot of myths about them. Tonight, Rolando Santos is here with part 2 of his Nightcast Extra to clear up some of those myths.
Well, Dave, the small business world is filled with pitfalls, with many of them coming from those myths and false assumptions. Some people enter the field thinking that they'll become an overnight success, but the first few months are critical. And even with enough dollars and cents, it may be years before owners become a small business success story.
There's something appealing and glamorous about owning your own business. It may be a lingerie store or making a bundle selling the Rubik's Cubes that were popular last year. But if prestige and glamour are the main reasons for starting your own place, you may already be 2 steps closer to bankruptcy.
Basically, some people make $1 million, but it's very, very difficult to do. It's not instant. There's no instant money available.
Yvonne Barra started Pacific Pasta Production just 9 months ago. She says you better throw out those romantic notions like having more leisure time or taking time off whenever you want just because you're the boss.
I'm here between 7 and 8, depending on the day. Some days I have payroll to do and other, demands. And 8 o'clock we start, 11 o'clock we open up the doors, and then we serve continuously from 11 till 9, and we reset. And that requires about 2 hours worth of work.
It's a daily battle with one problem replacing another. Richard Thalheimer knows that. He's the boss here at Sharper Image, which blossomed from a one-man operation to a multi-million-dollar mail-order business.
If you're not successful, you worry about what you're going to do to get more sales. If you get a lot of sales, you worry about how you're going to handle all those sales.
Cash flow is the biggest small business killer. People don't realize that it takes money to grow. Bakers of Paris, for example, started in true small business tradition. 3 people decided one day that there wasn't any good French bread locally, so they opened their own bakery. In 2.5 years, it grew from 3 workers and an oven to 50 employees and 5 ovens. The money crunch arrived as well.
When you're a small business, you cannot generate the type of fund that would allow you to grow extremely fast.
Robbie Jadot also faces a unique problem, a union confrontation. Even though the small shop is not unionized, Teamsters appeared one day declaring war because the bakery delivers bread 7 days a week, contrary to local tradition.
When the Teamsters came and told me that we were employing people under substandard conditions, and I said, oh, you're right, because there is only one driver, that's me, and I don't get paid yet.
Although amused at first, it was clear the union meant business.
Well, first of all, they scared us like death. They said, well, we are going to picket you. You're not going to get the flour. You're not going to get this and that. We're going to picket your accounts, and they did.
Robbie Jadot says public pressure helped beat back the union, but the owners say it left them with a sick feeling of how a union can mean life or death for a fledgling company. Union officials have not answered our questions on the issue. By far, poor planning and poor research are the worst enemies of the small business. But as Yvonne Barras found out, 6 months of planning doesn't guarantee smooth sailing. She says Murphy's Law applies. If it can go wrong, it will.
We had flooding. We had 54 days of rain straight, and it sets you back, and, that eats into your working capital, and you borrowed the money, and you have to pay it back.
So if it's such a hassle, why do they stay in it?
There isn't a day that goes by I don't love it. I love it, love it, love it. I feel complete.
And you have to love it. Most of the time you won't get rich, but you can be comfortable and happy. Tomorrow night, we'll look at the ways to increase your chances of success in the small business world, plus what new products and services people may need. So if you got an idea rattling around in your head, tomorrow night you'll find out how to put it into use.
Especially if you'd like to work hard.
That's right.
And love it, love it, love it.
Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you, Rolando. One of the most popular ways of becoming your own boss is to buy a franchise, but that's also one of the most expensive ways into going into business for yourself. Tomorrow night, Rolando will tell you why it's so expensive, and he'll show you ways to avoid the high cost of franchising. Now,
Dave McElhatton, Wendy Takuda, Wayne Walker on sports, and Joel Bartlett with weather. This is Eyewitness News, Nightcast.
Next, the man who made a success of this store has some tips for people who want to start their own business. That's next in our Eyewitness News Extra, the success stories of small businesses.
some of the greatest innovations in this century have come from small businesses, from helicopters to zippers. They just started out with an idea and then figured out how to turn that idea into money. The people who thought about helicopters and zippers, that is. Tonight, in his Nightcast Extra, Rolando Santos looks at how you can beat the odds and increase your chances of success in small business.
Well, Dave, there are some relatively safe ways of becoming your own boss. Franchises, for example, are a pretty good bet. They have pretty good name recognition already, but they're also expensive to get into. That's only one of the ways that you can become a small business success story.
The survivors in the small business wars say the key lies in your imagination, because anything is fair game. You don't think so? Well, what about some of the crazy ideas that have made mega bucks? Someone had to dream up the hula hoop. What about the skateboard or T-shirt print shops? The people who do it say all you have to do is find a market and a way to promote like crazy. You don't even have to have an original idea. Dick Allen didn't.
Basically copied the stores that I used to patronize in Beverly Hills.
Dick Allen dropped out of the stock market business to open the Wine and Cheese Center. He says one-stop wine and cheese shops were popular in Los Angeles, but unheard of here in San Francisco 7 years ago. Now he's got several stores, and the business is still growing. Once you come up with an idea, there are two basic ways to make it go.
We just started small and just sort of grew.
Loretto falls in the I don't know how I did it, but it's working group. She and a friend started Elegant Clutter in a 10-by-10 cubicle at an art show.
$300 each, and we were scared to death. And then we just grew, took off.
This is Elegant Clutter's latest home, with sales topping $350,000 a year, all built on instinct. Nice, but not the way most businesses succeed. People like Chris Ferris say lots of careful research and planning are the real secrets.
We spent at least 2 years doing the research for the store. I spent quite a bit of time taking a lot of business classes.
For her, it's paid off with a Natural Instinct Science store. Dick Allen, on the other hand, advises that you look at your products and the market honestly. Ask how you're going to be different if you're an imitator. And since the first 2 years will mean an 18-hour-a-day lifestyle, get some first-hand experience beforehand.
I would recommend that you go work in that kind of a store for a few months. We've had people who want to drop out of corporate life. Some find it that the pace is a little too fast for them.
Over at Sharper Image, President Richard Thalheimer advises you not to jump in with both feet until you've tested the waters.
Most people feel that when they have a new idea, should go out and spend all their money trying the new idea. What they don't realize is if they're wrong, they have no money left then to try a second time.
Starting with one product, he's asked friends for feedback and added on gradually. Now there are 800 products, and it's a multi-million-dollar-a-year mail-order business. One of the best places to get some questions answered is the Small Business Administration. It can help with everything from financial planning to management crises. Money will always be one of your biggest obstacles, and family, friends, and a friendly bank are your best sources. Initial investments will vary from about $200 for businesses like Sharper Image to $200,000 for some restaurants. As for what's a good investment for the future, those in the know say anything having to do with food, entertainment, or electronics are good bets. And finally, a little bit of advice from some of the winners.
I have a motto, start small, show a profit, and then do it very big.
You have to be very versatile, can assume any role on demand. You have to be very tolerant. You have to be a teacher for other people. You have to have a working knowledge of finance. You have to be creative, but more than that, you have to be innovative.
Now, the one part of this whole story that's hard to show on television is the energy and enthusiasm of the people I talk to. After almost every interview, I find myself wondering if I could come up with an idea because they have me believing that I could do it too. So I guess in summing it up, I'd have to say that if you've got an idea, are willing to be a little bit of a gambler, and are willing to work hard, you're halfway there.
A friend of mine said the best thing in going into a small business is first inherit $1 million.
Well, what can I say?
That's one way to start. Now, these people all came up with their own ideas. What about buying into a franchise?
Franchises, from the people that I talk to, are real good if you're just going to get started because they already have the name recognition, they've already got locations. The problem is most of the people that want to get into small businesses get in it because they want full control of what they're doing. And the franchises, you have to give away some of that control, merchandising, marketing, et cetera, to the parent company. But they're a good, safe bet, relatively safe anyway.
Thanks, Rolando. It's also worth remembering, as Rolando pointed out, that there is help available. The Small Business Administration is there to answer questions, and the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce offers seminars for small businesses, so you can call and find out when they're offered. Wendy?
Joel is here to tell us...